Namaste. Welcome to the Shaman and the Mermaid. I'm Michael.
And I'm Katrina.
Welcome to our astrology report. We're doing this for February 23rd all the way through March 8th. We might talk a little bit past March 8th for some trends coming up, but we'll stick mostly in that time period. We're kicking off with the new moon in Pisces. The sun goes into Pisces on the 19th. Our report might be out by then, I'm not sure, but we have a sun in Pisces and the moon in Pisces on Sunday, February 23rd. That same day, Venus is squaring Jupiter, and Venus is going to be a big player in our report. Venus and Mars, really. And we just did a live workshop here at Karma Yoga Center about relationship in Mars and Venus and yin and yang, and that's going to play into our theme in our talk today.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so the personal planets are the big story for this report, which will, as Michael said, take us all the way up to the full moon, which will be in Virgo on March 9th. The personal planets, if you remember, are the ones that are closest into the sun, and that's Venus, Mercury, and Mars. And they are having the most aspects on this particular time. Big one particularly is Venus, because she has some big squares. And squaring is that 90-degree angle. It's an aspect that planets do with each other. And whenever you're in a square, that usually can cause some challenges. It usually means there's a challenge, like squaring off. And she has 3 of them, and she has 3 of them with big planets. She has them with Jupiter and with Saturn and with Pluto. So we'll talk about that. So because Venus is a big player in this report, she's part of what the theme is. And then Mars is another one. He's moving, or just did move, into the sign of Capricorn, from Sagittarius into Capricorn. So that's a big energy. He's also going to be conjunct the south node of the moon. And we'll talk about what Mars's flavor is in this time too. So Mars and Venus are big players, and then Mercury I mentioned, and Mercury currently is retrograde and will be for this whole time all the way up until the full moon, and then Mercury will go direct. So those 3 are having the big strong pulls on us, and that leads us to our theme. We are equating the Mars energy, or the masculine, or the solar, or the yang energy to be around willpower, or your will. And so will is the character name for that Mars energy. And then for Venus, we're calling, Venus is love and beauty and your values, what you hold to be true in your heart, and she's abundance, and so we're giving her the name of grace. And then the retrograde energy of Mercury, you always want to take time during Mercury retrograde. You want to be in review and reflection and rewind and remember. All the RE words come into play during retrograde. And so our theme is rehearse the roles of will and grace. Rehearse the roles of will and grace. That is the theme for this time, and we'll try to break that down for you a little bit more.
I like our theme. Part of why we came up with the rehearse part is we did this workshop when we were talking about in astrology through this lens of evolutionary astrology and Yogaville, and we also connect to the yogic teachings. We often use the analogy that you as a soul is akin to being an actor. And that actor can come in many different lifetimes and take on different roles and rehearse. And when the soul is rehearsing, it's in a state of growing and evolving and understanding new things about itself, about love, about spirit, about the unified field. And then when it's done with that particular role, it's over, we die, and then it goes back to being the soul. It takes with it the experience that it was in that particular play or lifetime, and then it goes on to the next role and shares that. And so we're, really just rehearsing each time we come in here and working through this. And often we're exploring the themes of the masculine and feminine, yin, yang, of solar, lunar, or as we talked about here, Venus and Mars. And maybe I'll talk about a healthy expression of Mars, and you can talk about a healthy expression of Venus. Does that
Sure,
work?
yeah.
Okay. So healthy expression of Mars, or masculine or yang energy, and I'm just going to use a few, there's many, but one is the willpower. Unhealthy or wounded expression of that willpower is not having any motivation or any direction or any purpose in the world. It's not being present with your surroundings or with what is. And often when wounded Mars energy is around, it'll look to escape. It'll look to project onto others or other fields like fantasy, video games, pornography, internet, social media. Mars is trapped into that world because it's not being present with what's here, and it's not asserting itself in this realm. And another version of healthy willpower Mars energy is open-heartedness. And I think this is a big piece of the theme. The masculine, when it is able to stand up confidently in itself, is willing to open up its heart and show that solar, loving, healing power that it has and use it in right way. Often the Mars energy is used in wrong way with aggression or attacking or defending things, but it can be used in that way. We're watching Downton Abbey, and we said it's kind of like Lord Grantham, head of the Duke of Grantham there, and he's using his power in the right way, helping others and standing up for what's good and true.
Right. Big reveal. We're watching Downton Abbey. We just got turned on to it. So then, if we go to the feminine or the yin energy, what we're calling grace in this particular theme, Venus is the planet that's holding that, and as I mentioned, she's going to come up against some big challenges in the next 2 weeks, and so your grace is going to be challenged in the next couple of weeks. And when you're yin energy, which is the creative and the nurturing and the receiving and giving, and it's the caregiver, but it's also the one that pulls in the nurturing energy as well as giving the nurturing energy. So you're a receptacle for it. You hold that space of the calm waters. This is going to be challenged, and when it's out of balance, the yin energy can look like insecurity or frailty or looking diminished or dried up or overwrought, like too frenetic because you've given so much and you've just buzzed up and buzzed out and gone away from your calm zone. So we want to try to use this Mercury retrograde time to help us rehearse how to navigate these roles of will and grace as they become challenged in the next couple of weeks. Will is not so much being challenged, will being Mars. It doesn't have the squares that Venus is going to have facing her. But Mars is going to come into some territory and come up against or conjoin on the South Node, which in and of itself creates some changes for us too. So we'll speak to that. Let's go right into Venus and Jupiter squaring, because that's the first one that comes out, and that'll be on Sunday, February 23rd, on the same day that the new moon goes into Pisces. So that kicks off this whole report. And right out of the chute, new moon in Pisces, which if you, I guess let me back up to the new moon in Pisces. The new moon is a beginning cycle of the month that goes all the way around. And we're going into the sign of Pisces, which in healthy way, Pisces is a very spiritually oriented sign. It's looking into the mystical, into the infinite beyond. It's looking into the imagination. It's looking into the collective consciousness or the one love of us all. When Pisces is out of balance, it can look delusional or like it's trying to escape something or hide away from truth and reality. It can get lost in the ocean and everything's very nebulous and disconcerting. So this new moon is a time to go through that Piscean cycle, and you set the intention on the new moon, not to go into escapism, but rather to go into that more spiritual tone of your soul's purpose. That's a choice. And make it on that new moon, February 23rd. Just set the intention. Same time, now we'll go into Venus square Jupiter. Same time of that new moon seeding, you've got Venus squaring with Jupiter. And if you look at it in Greek mythology, this is Aphrodite and Zeus. This is father-daughter. And they're squaring off to each other. Now, there's a challenge there. Jupiter is the big teacher. Jupiter is expansive, growing energy. Jupiter holds that guru kind of energy. And Venus is our values and our love and truth, beauty, all coming to a square. So the challenge, like, what do I hold? This is why when you put your value to expanding, you might not want to let that happen. You might try to block expansion of what you hold to be dear and true because it's scary. It's scary to take our values out into a bigger place. We might just want to hold it small and in. Those are those personal planets. They tend to want to be inward. And it's squaring on one of these outer planets that say, no, go outward. And so part of that new moon seeding, you could set the intention for that spiritual growth to happen, and that you let your values begin to go deeper into the ocean of your soul and explore a little more of what you hold to be truth. That's one way to look at how to use the challenge. The other way that Jupiter-Venus challenge could come about is that you let it go into lockdown instead. You fight against what you know to be true, what you know to be what you hold as values, or an old value of what you've been holding on to, a belief system, is you're not letting it expand. They're coming to a head. And the Jupiter end is saying, no, blow that up and out. And your old Venus value is saying, no, I want to hold on to the old way. So then we go into the theme, rehearse the roles of will and grace. And that's where this would really be helpful, that you would need to be strong-willed at this time. We're in difficult times, strong-willed, but find the grace to navigate through that difficulty. This is really the concept of stiram sukham in, to use the Sanskrit word, it's to be strong and soft at the same time. And then really what you get is a dovetail instead of a hit. They come together and merge, these two energies of that expansive Jupiter and the big teachings and that truth and beauty and values. They can dovetail. That's the first one. You want to talk about the next one?
Sure, nicely said on Stiram Sukham.
Thanks.
I like the dovetail. I was thinking of an owl wings and feathers.
Oh yeah, they are dovetailed very nicely together.
We like owls.
Mm-hmm.
Following the new moon on Sunday, February 23rd, is Mars conjunct the South Node on the 25th of February, on Tuesday. The South Node is the point in the sky where eclipses happen, and Mars will be coming right up on that point. The South Node has to do with things from the past, and the South Node and Mars are both in Capricorn, and so this is a review or coming up on energies, Capricorn energies. And Capricorn is structure, it's laws, it's rules, it's karma, it's society, it's government, it's banking, it's corporations, it's our career, it's our duties and responsibilities. Just a few things. And Mars is will, our willpower. The South Node for everybody, planetarily wise and individuals, is what needs to be purified, refined, changed about the past, healed. So when our willpower is coming up on all of those things, from the government to our willpower to our career and duties, a lot of us are carrying around duties and responsibilities and beliefs that we've been shouldering since childhood that are based on cultural norms, gender norms, financial norms of what we're supposed to show up as and what constitutes a success or likability, or a lot of it has to do with conditional love. Capricorn in wrong way or wounded way is everything's conditional. You're not worth anything unless you do something, and it's not doing something unless it's in the paradigm of the way of society. And so Mars, that willpower coming up, is asking us to review these old ways. And as Katrina said, Mars isn't so challenged here. It might be like, wow, I'm not going to do this anymore. And it's not even like a fight. It's just like the willpower suddenly rises up and says, this seems right now. Like two dovetails coming into place. Let's go with that. Or an owl wing gliding over the horizon. But Mars will also be opposite of the North Node, which is where we want to evolve to, which is in Cancer, which is emotions and intuitive self and nurturing and being respectful of each other. So perhaps this could be a time where we say, we don't want to do it the old way where everything's conditional and you have to prove that you're lovable. I'm just going to love you because you're a soul. That same day, Sun conjoins Mercury, which is also possibly a sweet aspect. Sun and Mercury are both in Pisces, at least at this time, and they'll come together in the sky. Old terms for it is combust. Mercury will be combust at that moment, but it's not really my favorite term, so forget that. I like to think of it more as the Sun is our heart, and Mercury is what we want to transmit out. And at that moment, the heart is right behind our transmitter. And the willpower is right on the place, Mars, of what needs to be purified about the past. And this could be perhaps a non-confrontational way, meaning like it seems right, things lock into place, the owl spreads its wings and goes. Like, let's go forward and heal these old wounds of conditional love and speak about it and do it.
I think February 25th, this day when Mars is conjoined with the South Node and the Sun is conjoined Mercury. They're all together. That's all happening on one day. Tuesday, February 25th is a powerful day. I think there's going to be a lot of assertion that happens. The Sun is no joke. That's the outward expression of how we show up in the world. And Mercury is our communicator, so we're going to say what's in that big golden heart of ours. And Mars is our initiative. It's our fire starter. It's our go-getter. And it's saddled up with some things of the past that hopefully we don't bring those. So it could go both ways. That Mars, Mercury, Sun connection could make us bring up a lot of stuff in the past, and it could be a big vomit. And we don't want to do that. But it could be there, so be aware. But the other side of it is, as Michael said, it could be a really pulling that grace. It could be a really harmonious coming to expression of letting go of some waves of the past and having the courage, Mars, to say that this is no longer me, Sun and Mercury. So maybe kind of look to that 25th as a day to let yourself be who you are and stand in your truth. Be the Lord Grantham of the castle, so to speak. And then we move on. 3 days later, February 28th, another Venus square. And this one is to Pluto. And in evolutionary astrology, Pluto represents our soul self. And Venus is our values. And they're coming, our soul and our values are coming to another one of those T-squares. And it's a time for what we hold to be internally a truth, to reckon with what's our soul self. And so the challenge is it really a truth? Is it really in alignment with my soul? And then you let that merging become the dovetail again, or you let it become the wrecking ball and break down some of those old values that are no longer serving. And you use the will of that Mars conjunct the South Node, the things of the past, the strong will warrior, the fighter, and the past stuff, and this Venus-Pluto square a couple days later, and you can start to dissolve, working with dissolving some old stuff. And this infrastructure that we've been holding on to, that we've got from our family traditions, from our society traditions, our cultural norms, our government, it's just been ingrained in us, and it's heavy. And so these challenges, these squares that are coming at us, these wrecking balls, could be a godsend. because sometimes we need that momentum and that force to really break through. We need to land smack dab on our booty and look up and go, oh my gosh, we need to fall down to rise up sometimes, and that could be what's coming up. And then just shortly after that, Venus has another square. She squares against Saturn. You want to speak to that one?
Mm-hmm. That's on Tuesday, March 3rd. And Venus... A week later. Venus squaring Saturn is your internal values, what we value as individual human beings. You value your body, your money, you value truth, you value connectivity, relationship, community, is going up against Saturn. And Saturn says, these are the rules, this is the way it's been, these are the things you have to do. And again, Katrina said it might be a time where it's the wrecking ball. Pluto and Saturn, by the way, are right next to each other in the sky, and virtually they will be for another 9 months. It's that Pluto-Saturn conjunction we talked about.
Have been talking
about, and we'll continue to talk about. They are revolutionary energies together. And Saturn is wanting things to be put in right way. It's the wise elder saying, we got to change this, but the shadow side of Saturn is corruption and hiding things and building more structure around greed. But Venus is coming in and saying, but we're truth and beauty at our heart. And this is another place where that willpower, that grace and will come together, and maybe some wrecking ball things will happen around the old structure, or maybe the old structure is going to push back against us becoming individuals, but we're going optimistic that we keep and rehearse will and grace at this time.
Okay, so that's a lot. Those are the kind of the big energies right out of the chute from the new moon as you're setting that seed of intention in Pisces, and all these energies are Pisces and Capricorn energies. Now, when we move on into the aspects, we come up March 4th, a day after that square of Venus with Saturn. Mercury, still retrograde, is going to come out of Pisces and into Aquarius. So it was already there. That was the shadow path we were talking about, that trail it was taking. It stopped and stationed to go retrograde, and it's been in Pisces as we've been talking, and from the 16th of February it went retrograde, and it's going backwards, and then on March 4th it's going to move into Aquarius. So now a different flavor on that review, reflection, remembrance, all the RE words again. It's been in Pisces, which is that spiritualism, the infinite beyond, the imagination. We've been reviewing things around that. Now, March 4th, we go into Aquarius, and we're going to continue reviewing, reflecting, rewinding, all the RE words still, but in the sign of Aquarius, which has the flavor of innovation, revolution, evolution, inventiveness. It's all centered around community, so all this revelation and evolution is for the good of the whole, and we're reviewing these things still for a little bit longer, a few more days in that Aquarius energy. But a different flavor, it shifts. And at the same time that Mercury is going backwards, not really backwards, but seemingly backwards into Aquarius, Venus is going to move into one of her home signs of Taurus. So she moves out of fiery Aries energy, the home of Mars, and moves into Taurus. And there's a little bit of a when that happens. There's a little bit of reprieve. So Grace gets to go crawl into her nice big comfy bed. Essentially, that's what happens. And I say big comfy bed because love, abundance, beauty, values, all the things of Venus / Grace is home in Taurus, which is the exact same energy. Taurian energy is about our values, about home, about beauty, about feeling secure and safe and grounded. So our values come home on that day. Our values get to feel that sense of nurturing and safety and belonging. March 8th, Sunday, March 4th, Wednesday. Let's move on to March 8th.
March 8th, I think this is another big date for this cycle. That day, the sun will conjoin or come together with Neptune, and Venus will come together with Uranus. Sun and Neptune, sun's the heart, the no joke big energy, as Katrina said, and Neptune is our spirituality, our dreams, our imagination. So the heart and the spiritual self come together on that day. And Venus, our loving, communal, beauty, truth-seeking self, comes together with Uranus, the revolutionary, the innovator, the evolution, and the one that wants to come together in community. Sounds like a pretty cool day to me.
Yeah, that sounds, well, conjunctions are coming together. Look to the positive of it. There's always what could go wrong when two things come together. But first and foremost, I always like to look at what is this energy potentially bringing that could be of service. And I really like that our outward expression, the sunshine, our big golden hearts, are teaming up with our spiritual imagination, creativity, you can think of it as, and we can just really bring in some big dreams, big dreaming, and expressing the big dreaming too.
Mm-hmm.
The heart is the outward expression of ourselves, or the sun is the outward expression of ourselves. So sharing this out for the good of the whole. And then that Venus-Uranus, that's a little bit of a wild card, but since Venus is home and comfortably in her big cushy bed, Uranus is potentially that can work that lightning bolt strike in a harmonious way of letting abundance show up, letting good fortune come in. That strike, the wild card, could be a lot of prosperity, especially with Sun, with that Dreamtime Neptune being expansive too. Flip side, what it could look like on the negative is you get drunk off your ass and fall deep into that big comfy bed of yours with somebody you don't even know. So just be careful of that. I mean, it's like delusion and escapism, and all fantasy comes into the big picture, and like all the things that are sometimes pulling us away from our true self goes completely the other way. And we think it's chasing our true self. This is what I want. This is what my heart wants. And it's really an escape mechanism so that you don't have to look at what's truly going on in the heart. So just hold that in awareness. Don't go completely south on us.
Keep it classy.
Keep it classy. Grace. Find grace. Keep her in her grace. And then the last bit that we'll come back to you on is really the full moon in Virgo, and Mercury will go direct on the same day that the full moon goes into Virgo, and that's a whole big new party that we'll talk about then, and that'll happen on Monday, March 9th.
Yeah.
We got it all?
I think we got it all.
So remember, rehearse or review or remember those lines or the roles of will, your deep willpower, and grace, that internal beauty that you have. Keep them classy. Till next time.
Namaste.
Ave Maria.